to my 16.3 coaching session review and development plan. I do feel I achieved my session aim. This is because I taught the passing technique and then worked on 3 different drills to check this technique. We then progressed through 3 different drills that were progressively harder, which helped the team get used to the technique of passing. We then went on to develop the technique so the athletes can pass over a longer distance or can pass and release the ball really quickly instead of taking a long time to get the ball positioning correct and release the ball. So we worked on getting the ball out of people's hands quicker and passing over a longer distance. We were then able to use the skills in a game situation. This was tag rugby, and every player got involved and used the correct technique. So no one was sort of slacking behind and not on the same level. Everyone progressed a lot through this session. Some more than others, but everyone did progress to a really good level. This was clear as all players scored a lot of tries in the match, so it shows that they were using their passing technique, which I saw as they were able to pass the ball to release players which could run on and score. So they were passing it down the line well, which we'd practice, and then they used that in a game situation where they pass it from one side of the pitch to the other to get the winger involved and then run up the line and score a try. So really, this is why I do feel I achieved my session objective and aims. Is we did really learn and develop the skill of passing in rugby, and we did use the correct technique in a game situation of tag rugby. So this is where I analyse my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So I feel that one of my strengths was the equipment. So when planning my session, I knew exactly what equipment I needed, and I had it all ready prior to my session. This helped me as I was and was a strength because I knew what I needed and didn't mess around and waste time getting equipment. So I didn't go into the equipment cupboard and think, oh yeah, I'll just take that, I'll just take that. I knew exactly what I needed, I knew exactly how many. So I just grabbed what I needed and just got on with setting up. I also did have a specific warm-up, which involved stretching legs, arms, raising the heart rate in a specific game. I planned a game which would help to warm up the sort of aspects of passing. So in rugby, when you're passing quite quickly and close, we worked on this in the warm-up. So I feel this is quite a good thing to do in the warm-up, as it not only raises your heart rate, but it links to what you're doing in the session. So this therefore helped as when we moved on to the harder passing drills, they were already warmed up with the basics from the warm-up. I also feel my setup was a major strength of mine. It enabled me to get straight into activities without having to then set up more equipment. This saved time and helped the classes, they could see the areas we were working on and how we were progressing through these in a circuit sort of motion. This was a strength as the class knew where to go when one drill finished, so we weren't wasting time in between thinking, oh, where do we need to go? We knew exactly where to go, and we didn't waste any time, which was very useful. I also feel my transitions between drills were a strength. This is because I had all my drills set up in place prior to the start of the session. This allowed me to quickly change from one drill to another without wasting any of my class's time. I also tried to keep my explanations as minimal as I could to make sure I was efficient, time efficient, as I feel this is very important for a good coach. So I was quite concise with my explanations, but I got across the basic teaching points, which was useful. So I didn't give them too much information, which would then confuse. So the transitions were very quick between finishing a drill, starting the next one, and getting the explanation in. One of my weaknesses was my knowledge of technique, so I knew the basics of passing, however was not 100% sure on the harder passing, for example, passing over a longer distance using spin passes. Many of my class did not need to progress this to the long passes, however a couple did, and I need to in future learn these techniques more clearly. The size of my drill is also a weakness. I made the first drill a little bit too small, resulting in me having to rearrange the cones. This wasted a tiny bit of time, but however it was not too bad as I already had all the equipment set up, so I only had to rearrange it slightly. I underestimated the skill level of many of my group, which is a problem when you set everything up before the start of the session, as you have no chance to assess the ability prior to the setup. During my delivery, I was also not loud enough at times. I needed to raise my voice slightly louder when talking to the group. This was a weakness as it meant some of the class couldn't hear clearly when I was explaining the drills. It was also a very windy day which made it difficult to hear, therefore I needed to raise my voice more. One other weakness in my delivery is that I did not check for any medical conditions prior to the session. This is a weakness as there could have been people in the class with serious or minor injuries which I would not have been aware of. Thankfully there wasn't, however in future I shall remember to check and not make this mistake again. Therefore, there are opportunities for me to, such as a coaching course. A coaching course could really help me get to used to different teaching points and techniques of different passes. This therefore will help me to lead a better session as the class will be challenged more due to the specific and correct teaching and techniques. I could also get more experience writing the lesson plans. This will help me to perfect the sizes and layouts of the drills, as I'll be able to remember it off the top of my head due to the repetition. I'll also be more aware of how the sizing will help due to the experience of running a session. Therefore, in the plans I will write up, I can be more specific with the sizes of the drills. I can also practice my voice, practice raising my voice louder than I did during the session. I practice in my house or garden where it's windy, and then the environment will be similar to that of the session. This therefore will help me lead a session which is more effective, as I will be able to explain drills to the entire class as everyone will be able to hear. This will then save time as I won't have to repeat myself to individuals in the class who couldn't hear. Another opportunity is to research techniques of passing. This could then be done by watching videos on YouTube to aid my knowledge, going to rugby sessions and watching the coach teaching these skills, and practicing myself to learn the skills and be able to perform them correctly myself. This therefore will enable me to teach the class the different teaching points in more detail, and then I can teach students which can progress through harder techniques and more difficult skills without being out of my depth. However, there are threats to these opportunities. One of these is the price of coaching courses. The courses can cost a lot of money and are not run very often, so maybe in every half term. This may mean that I cannot take part in the course as I cannot afford it, or when the course is being run I cannot attend it as I'm busy. This will mean that coaching courses could not help my teaching as I might not be able to attend them. Another threat is the fact that writing session plans may not actually aid my coaching in the same way as the experience of running a session would. Writing the session plans may help me my delivery, like my coaching points and stuff. However, it may not aid my sizing, and I will not be able to have the knowledge of the class to base the activity sizes on. I also feel that learning to raise my voice to be a louder level could come across as quite aggressive, as when I raise my voice sometimes you can think, oh, they're shouting at me and they're cross with me. This could mean that the students are put off when I try and get their attention, for example. This therefore is a threat, as if I come across as an aggressive person every time, then I have to increase my voice. Then the class may feel I'm angry and shouting when really I'm just trying to increase the volume so they can hear. I do think the techniques can be very difficult to learn as well. This is another threat. If I'm unable to learn the techniques and research them so I know them off the top of my head, then this will be a threat, as I won't be able to explain the different techniques in such detail and be able to get the most from my class. For example, spin passing can be very hard, and if I cannot learn the teaching points or actually be able to demonstrate this, then the class may find it hard to understand my explanations, as they will not be as I won't be 100% sure. So my three major strengths was setup, transitions, and specific warm-up. One major strength of mine was definitely my setup. I set up my different drills prior to the start of the session. I also set up my drills in a circuit, so we moved around in a circular motion from drill to drill. This meant that there was no time being spent in between drills waiting to be told where to go to. This allowed me to get the most from my half an hour session, as we were not wasting time in between drills and activities. I feel that being time efficient is key for a good coach, and having everything set up before the session and being able to move around the drills easily is an important strength. The positive impact it had on my coaching was that the class was able to move, was always moving and flowing. There was no standing around, which meant the class was constantly engaged in the drills. Another of my strengths was my transitions between the drills. As I was well prepared and had all my drills set up, there was a very fast turnaround in between explanations and drills. I was able to keep my explanations concise at times and therefore get the class straight into drills from one to another. Again, this meant I was very time efficient, filling my session time with activities and minimal time in between drills. This was a positive as it meant I could get the most from my class in the time I was allocated. This meant my class was able to really progress through the drills and use the techniques in the game as they had enough time to practice due to the quick transitions. My last strength I feel is my specific warm-up. I used a specific warm-up as I feel it's important to use the warm-up to not only stretch and raise the heart rate, but to incorporate the specific skill you'll be using during the session. So therefore I incorporated passing and moving in my warm-up to get the students' handling of the balls warmed up before we got into the drills. This is a strength and had a positive effect on my coaching, as it meant that when we got into the drills, the students were completely ready as they had already done some passing. Their movements therefore would be cleaner and more fluid when we started the first drills, as the warm-up will have got them an idea of the movement already. So my first area for improvement is the technique of passing. One area I do feel I need to improve on is my knowledge of passing. This is because at times I was not 100% sure I was correct when explaining. This meant that the class could have been learning the wrong thing, as I could have been slightly wrong at times. I feel if I had have known more about the passing technique, I could have progressed the students slightly more to get onto the more spin passing. The negative effect this had on my coaching is that the fact I could have possibly got more from the class had I known exactly the technique, and I also have taught the students incorrectly as well, which is a negative effect. One area, my development from this would be a coaching course. I feel that if I went on a coaching course on rugby, then I would be able to learn more about the techniques and be able to teach them without making any mistakes, therefore be able to progress onto harder and more challenging drills. I also feel that the drills will be more technical when learning them from a coaching course. This allows me to coach a session which the class can progress even more. This therefore is measurable due to whether or not you pass or fail the course. Courses are sometimes over 5 days, or for example could be 40 hours of coaching in your own time. This will be specific as I can do courses on perfecting my technique when coaching. One of the coaching courses I would look at would be England Rugby Qualification of Rugby Ready. This is a course consisting of learning match day preparations, correct techniques in injury prevention and management. This course would come in very useful as getting an insight to how rugby teams prepare on a match day could be used to give my class a taster for what joining a rugby team would be like if it would suit them. I also will really benefit from the technique work from the course, as this was my main weakness. This way I will learn how to perfect techniques and coaching points. I'll also be able to prevent any sort of injuries when coaching this, so if I'm coaching any more difficult passing, then there will be no risk of injuries because I'll know how to prevent them. This course only costs £15, which is a very reasonable price considering the aspects of the course it covers. It covers everything I need, so the techniques of passing and other drills, which would be very useful. Another coaching course I would take is the Sports Leaders Level 2 Award. This course gives a coach a greater knowledge in leadership, organisation, planning, communication and teamwork. This would be very useful for rugby coaches. It's a very intense sport with risk of injury. Therefore, the coach needs to be very organised and plans the sessions in advance to get the most from the class without the risk of injury. Also, you will need to communicate very well, as many of the drills and techniques can be very complicated in rugby. This is why I feel this would be a great course for me to take to really improve my coaching in rugby. Then, if I learn the technique of passing and I've done the sports leaders, then I'd be able to get the technique across to the students in a much more effective manner.